Yo, it's your boy Colin back at you with another video. This is Colin, aka Colin Trade CSP, back with you in another video. We had a pretty interesting week. That this past week we had a bounce midweek, which then led to a sell-off. Like last video, I mentioned that we were possibly going to get a dead cat bounce, which then that came true towards the second half of the week, which we saw massive sell-offs. Now we're going to be taking a look at this new week to see if we're going to be getting a continuation to the downside or a potential just range trading. As I noticed in the charts I was looking at, we had a lot of range bound stocks that we are forming, and we want to make sure that we do not get stuck in the range and we just have that continuation to the downside. So let's go over the news first, and then we're going to look at the charts and see exactly what to look for this coming week. All right, so let's start off first. I just want to let you guys know that on Monday there will be no trading days as it is President's Day, so don't expect the markets to be open. But going into the first half of the week, we do not really have anything going on. Empire State Manufacturers Surveys, home builder confidence, this basically affecting the real estate market on that side, housing starts, building permits, and so forth. These are all just basically real estate numbers, so they will affect the real estate stocks like I'm currently in open. So I'll be keeping an eye on it, but not really any big market movers. We do get the Fed minutes on Wednesday at 2 o'clock, so that is something to keep an eye on when it comes to rate cut decisions and so forth moving forward throughout the year. Then second half of the week where things start to get very interesting. Thursday, not so much, advanced wholesale inventories and so forth, but all eyes are going to be on Friday as we be getting the GDP, Q4 GDP numbers, personal income, PCE, core PCE, consumer sentiments, and so forth. So that PCE is going to be, when it comes to the consumer goods and services, something when it comes to people's spendings year over year and month over month. So we want to make sure that those numbers are good, so it shows an overall strong economy moving forward with the current interest rates. So that is something that we want to be taking a look at this week, as it's going to be the decider if the market wants to continue higher, or we're going to be breaking the range to the lower end. Next, we're going to be looking at earnings. As you can see, really nothing when it comes to earnings, as you know, everything is basically behind us and all eyes will be basically on NVIDIA next week. But the main one that we want to pay attention to will be Walmart Thursday morning before the bell, as Walmart is going to be the biggest consumer staples stock out there. They basically, everybody shops at Walmart, so if they report good numbers, they'll be reporting it, letting us know that there's still a current strong economy. Another one is Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola, another consumer staple, as if they report good earnings, will be showcasing that we're currently in a very strong economy. So those are really the two big names that I'm looking at this coming week. So when it comes to earnings, not really stuff to watch at. So let's go take a look at the charts to see exactly what we're looking at. First off, we'll start with NQ. As you can see, we've been basically range bounding in the midpoint of this area since basically October of last year. As you saw, we've literally tested the highs, and the highs here, lows here, highs here. Now looking to possibly test the lower end of this range. So we've literally just been range bounding since October of last year. Now with an upcoming catalyst like NVIDIA earnings next week, or potential Fed decisions and PC reports, and then going into the beginning of March, which the employment rate, that will be the decider to see if we want to take the market lower or potentially higher. As you can tell, that when it comes to just basically trading this week, as NQ is currently at the lower end of the range. Something to keep an eye on is probably the second basically the second bottom half of this range, to see if we want to test the lower bound to then potentially bounce back into the mid-range. So that's something to keep an eye on for the tech names, to see if we want to basically continue in this range bound or potentially break to the downside, which then if we zoom out a bit, we'll be looking at this roughly around this 22.5 to 22,000 area. But if we do have a potential bounce at this lower end, at this roughly around this 24,000 even, then we'll definitely take a look at right back into the mid-range at 25,000. Next is ES, also potentially range bounding since the beginning of October. As you can saw, we tested the bottom half of the range, entered it, broke it, tested back into it, broke it again, tested back, went back into the mid-range, tested the bottom half, which then now we'll like to see this potentially hold. As we tested the top, tested the bottom, broke it, but reclaimed it. Now we're just, again, trading back into the range. So we want to make sure to keep close eyes to see if we want to break to the downside, or then maybe possibly just trade right back into range to the upside. Now, if we do break to the bottom side, something to keep an eye on, key levels, would be this 6,000 area. I mean, first test would be this 6-7 area. I would want to see hold for a potential reclaim like it did recently, or if we do break that, then we'll most likely test this bottom half at 6.9 area and then lower. So this is something, again, as the market is currently in a range, we cannot take any serious long-term trades, as you know, you just basically stuck in a pickle trading these zones. Once we do get a clear indication to the downside or upside, then that's when best to take longs or take shorts. So as of right now, with us trading at the bottom of the range, I'm going to be keeping a close eye on the continuation to the downside with the tickers I'll be naming next. But let's take a look at BTC and see how my head and shoulders pattern is going on that. So zooming out onto the daily time frame, as I mentioned in previous videos, this head and shoulders is coming into fruition, as we have currently broken down of the neckline, and now we're going to be basically probably range bounding on this stock from back here to now holding this area down here. So something to keep an eye on to see how BTC reacts at this 75,000 area, to see if it continues lower or potentially breaks and retests to go long. So with that, you know, we want to make sure that we're trading safe, as we know this current range will be basically very volatile, as markets are trying to price in if we want to move higher or lower. So just keeping a close eye on this 75,000 area when it comes to probably taking a stab short, or if we do get the continuation higher, which then keeping an eye on ES and NQ. If we do take this market higher, then keep an eye to basically for the retest to test long on BTC. So now I'm going to show you 3 potential trade names that I'll be taking a look at this week. I'm going to first start with Starbucks, as I did take a trade short from my previous video I mentioned. It worked out in my favor, so now I'm going to basically see if I can get a continuation to the downside and or potentially take a bounce long. So with Starbucks, as you clearly see, as I mentioned in previous videos, I did take a stab short in this area right here. Worked out in my favor right around here, and now we're trading at 93. So now moving forward, what I want to see is this to basically hold this 200 EMA, breaking the downtrend of this since January of the beginning of the year, retest this trend, and then take a stab short to retest this 90 level support area. This what I've loved about Starbucks is that they do respect the supported areas and resistance areas very well to the T. So Starbucks is definitely going to be a name I'll be mentioning in most of my videos, as it respects levels pretty well. So one thing I'm going to be keeping an eye on is Starbucks basically testing this trend and basically taking a stab short to ride back to this 91 area. Now, if we do get a clear break of this, basically this 200 EMA, then I'm definitely going to get a test longs, as this is support area. As like I mentioned in previous videos, this tested multiple times in the past. So I would like to definitely test longs into this $90 area, to which then ride back till the recent highs. So Starbucks is the first watch. Next is NVIDIA. So with NVIDIA, it is a very cautious play, as we do have earnings the following week on the 25th, I believe. Yep, the 25th. So something to keep a note of when you're trading this week, as this could move and fluctuate to start pricing in the earnings the following week. But as you can see on NVIDIA, we did break a very key level. As we have here, there is basically resistance here, resistance here, resistance here, broke, then we came in as support, then broke back under as resistance, and then resistance, resistance, support, support, resistance. Now back at it with support, and now we're back under this area. So we've tested this level multiple times, bounced off this level multiple times. So as a trader, you want to make sure your risk to rewards are high, but your probabilities are higher as well. So, you know, with multiple tests of this key level and with the break of this key level, I'm going to be testing a potential short if the market does want to continue lower. So that's something you want to keep an eye on. So as of right now, you can basically test this 184, 185, to which then stab short to ride back to the bottom half of this trend. Another thing too, if you wish to take this long, just basically wait for the break and retest long. Something to make a note of when it comes to this, as you zoom out from this trade, we've literally been just range bounding since basically the enter of this area. So this is, like I'm pretty sure I mentioned in a previous video about NVIDIA, is that NVIDIA literally just range bounds. And as you can see, we've entered, tested the midpoint of the range, tested the bottom, broke out, reclaimed it. Now it's just literally top end, bottom end, top end, bottom end, top end. And now we're at the basically the break of the midpoint. Can definitely see this basically retest the midpoint, which then stabs short to the bottom half of this range. So this is, I'll be keeping a close eye on, as if the market does want to break its current range that it's trading in, if we do see some major downsides, then the NVIDIA can definitely be a very good name going short into earnings for then a potential bounce. But again, with earnings being next week, you got to be very cautious of the decision making and your risk to reward, as this can go in literally any direction, as the market, it has been shown in the past couple of weeks, not making a clear decision to see exactly where it wants to go. So, you know, make sure to keep your stop losses tight, as the market can basically flip in the other side of the direction very quickly. The last name I'll be taking a look at is AMD. AMD is another, basically the same sector as NVIDIA. So with the earnings of NVIDIA happening the following week, just make sure to keep this one tight as well, as they usually trade and correlate roughly around the same. Same thing, just like NVIDIA, as you can see, we're literally in a range bound since the breakout of the past earnings. So we've literally gapped up. Now we're basically trading top end, bottom end, testing this support, tested the top end as well with the double top, and now at the bottom end of the range. So something to keep in and also note is that we have a massive gap down below all the way to 170, and then we have a massive gap up back to 240. So something to keep a note of going into this week, but also with earnings the following week. So the trade idea I'm looking at is basically if the market does want to continue lower, something I'm going to be keeping on is the breakdown. So we get a clear break come Monday, possibly with a gap down, retest this 200 area, and then basically test the bottom half at these potential resistance or supports, the resistance areas that was right here, but then basically trading this from 200 all the way back down to 185 to 187 area. Then if we do get a clear break of that, I would definitely see the potential full gap close on this one if it market does want to continue lower. Now, again, we are trading right into a major support, so be very cautious as this could potentially bounce right back into these EMAs and back to then looking into this gap fill to the top side. So as you can tell, this is going to be a very key point right here to see if the market wants to continue lower, or potentially this is just a continuation of the range, which then this is just the bottom half of the range, which then we will possibly test the top end roughly around that 275 or 270, I mean. So those are the three stocks I'll be taking a look at this coming week. We have a very interesting, but most likely it's going to be a flat week. No major news is coming out this coming week, so something to keep an eye on. And also just keep an eye on the range on ES and NQ as we're still trading in that area. If we do get a major sell-off, some type of random news will most likely have to come out rather on Monday or Tuesday, the beginning of the week, for the continuation to the downside. But if we do not get any news and we just I most likely see us just continuing to range bound in that area that ES and NQ are currently showing. So it is a very choppy market, so just make sure to keep your stop losses tight and make sure to secure your profits when you can, because you do not know when this is going to basically flip to the other side. But with that, that's the end of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll be coming out with these every week, so hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the bell notification so that you can get an update on when I post my next video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys have any questions or concerns or any ticker you guys want me to look at next week, just leave it in the comments, and then I'll most likely get to it and showcase it on the next following video. But I hope you guys have a good day and a good trading week. Take it easy.